NC State weathers the storm, beats Miami by a score of 20-6. We got another victory Monday.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Wolfpack. Free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Happy Monday. It's a victory Monday. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. NC State absolutely dominates Miami on the defensive side of the ball, leaves Carter Finley on Saturday night with a 20-6 victory over the Hurricanes. We're going to jump back into Kenton's keys here, see how we did against the keys. We'll start with the offensive side of the ball.
Absolutely. So the first was one or less turnovers. We had two, and I want to say this, both of which were by MJ Morris, but you got to understand the difference in some of these turnovers. In both of these, I want to put at least 1.5 on the offensive line in our blocking schemes.
I think that's fair.
Because one was we were going to deep ball, and they bought the house, and there was no way. We just didn't have the numbers to block them, and boom, we end up throwing what's tantamount to a punt to Cam Kitchens there. The other one, they drop one defensive end and bring one nickelback. The nickelback went untouched.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I don't know what you want from the young man there, but so we had two turnovers. We did not meet that goal. The second goal was 100 yards and a TD or two TDs from any other player other than Concepcion and MJ Morris, and the closest we got was Brennan Armstrong with 51 yards. Yeah, nobody exactly did that one. And the last one was 125 on the ground. Now, here's the interesting thing. If we don't count sack yardage, we actually got this one. But in college football, sack yardage counts against your rushing yards. So we're looking at 108 there, which means we went 0 for 3 offensively.
Another game here. We talked a lot about this Saturday night in our post game. The offense at this point, it is what it is. And you just have to continue to get creative, which Robert and I has been doing. And I want to call into attention the one inside run where you had like 6 guys lined out to the left side, and then you had KC run inside for like a shovel pass type deal and went for 30, 40 yards down the middle of the field. That was excellent. That level of creativity is something you have to keep bringing out week after week in order to get something done through this offense, because again, it's just going to be a grind and you're just going to have to keep plugging away the rest of the way here. But the turnovers from MJ, I also mentioned this Saturday night. I think you saw a little bit of his youth and a little bit of his inexperience in this game. And again, that's okay, because I think, a lot of folks that were on the MJ train for so long, like, this is our guy. He's going to be the guy. He's the next. He's the future of this program. He is all of those things. But you have to understand, he's only played in 7 collegiate games. He's going to make mistakes. He's still a young kid learning how to be an effective quarterback, much less in the ACC against some of these top teams like a Clemson or a Miami. So to see him struggle, in a sense, it's a good thing. That's what he's going to learn from. We'll continue to say this as often as we need to. The struggle will turn into sunshine down the road. So some of the struggle, as long as it doesn't detrimentally kill us and lose a game for us, which it hasn't, the struggle will be a good thing down the road.
Let him learn now that, hey, you don't need to make that pass. You don't need to, this is what that looks like and all that, and we go from there. But let's go over to the defensive side of the ball, where surprisingly We did not go 3 for 3. The first was to create two turnovers or more from this offense. And what's that? We've got another sign. TVD just threw another INT, ladies and gents. TVD just threw another INT while we were recording this game. While we were recording this episode. Tyler Van Dyke has another game of 3 interceptions. And we forced a fumble as well. Shout out to Red Hibbler. I'll tell you what, that man is a menace off the edge.
Whole lot of red.
Whole lot of red there with the 4 red unis. I see what you did there, Grayson. That's a good ball. That's a good ball. But anyway, we needed 2 turnovers. We got 4. So that's always a good thing. Hold them to less than 125 rushing, 119. And I want you to think about how razor thin the margins were here, right? Imagine if they would have had 121, but those extra 2 yards would have come on that 4th down conversion. Maybe having a different conversation right now. We may be having a very different conversation. So that 125 was a good place to put that. And the last one was 2 drives that they started inside their 15. Now, here's the thing. We actually did this once because of an MJ Morris interception. But, we did not get them down there twice, so we didn't get that done. So we went 2 for 6 against the Keys here. But I want to point out something that's kind of strange to me, because this is going to be one of our keys going forward. I don't understand how we're not playing complimentary football. Our 2 touchdown drives were from our own 25 or deeper. The other touchdown drive being a 97-yarder. Why can't we get creative when we get the ball in plus territory? Make it easy on yourself, brother. Make it easy. Make this thing, listen. And I'm going to tell you this. Teams are going to start keying in to KC to the point where you got to use him as the decoy. So we're going to have to get creative real soon here.
A couple of the instances where the offense had a great opportunity to put additional points on the board, and it more or less felt like we had to settle for a field goal. A little bit timid, so I understand exactly what you're saying there. But, in terms of complimentary football, I think the greatest example maybe we've had all season long was that 4th and 1 stop directly converting into a 97-yard touchdown drive to effectively throw a dagger into the Miami Hurricanes on Saturday evening. But the defense, the turnovers we talked about, you had to make Tyler Van Dyke beat you. He didn't beat us. He couldn't get it done. 4 turnovers, outstanding effort from Tony Gibson and the guys in the defense. Aiden White, we haven't exactly said his name as often as we thought we would have this year. He showed up in a big way with that interception.
Teams just haven't been throwing his way much.
Well, understandably so. Right, big interception from Boykin, and first collegiate interception from Brandon Cisse. Certainly expecting a lot of him out of these next couple of years.
I love him. I love that guy.
It's great to see him get on the board as well. Of course, the forced fumble deep in Miami's territory, that was another excellent effort. Again, shout out Red Hibbler. He has been an absolute beast and flying under the radar, I think, in doing so for much of this year. He's having an outstanding year.
I want to say this about Cisse as well. Remember when I told y'all that drive against VMI where they picked on him was good for him?
It absolutely was.
Remember when I said him struggling right now is good for him because he will get better. He will learn from this. He will grow from this. The only thing that I said may have been problematic about it is if the coaches get nervous and redshirt him because of it. They have not done so. He has been a phenomenal second nickel or dime corner. He has been phenomenal in that role.
Yeah, that's the exact kind of logic we're applying to the MJ conversation. It's that exact scenario. In a sense, you want them to struggle at least a little bit because that's what they build on and grow from in the games the rest of this year and into these next couple years. And so, excellent job by Brandon Cisse getting on the board there. Excellent job by the defense across the board. Phenomenal performance Saturday night. Up next, we're going to give our big picture takeaways in the second segment before we talk about the season opener for men's basketball to close us out here on Monday. Stick with us after a quick word from our sponsors. It's now time for your game changer of the week, and that is Athletic Brewing Company. Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good, which means they're full of flavor and they're well-crafted, just like a full-strength beer. Their brews are great tasting and award-winning, beating out full-strength beers in global competitions. They brew over 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, Goldens, Sours, and more. Simply, they're fit for all times. You can drink them anytime, anywhere, and make any activity more enjoyable. Whether you're watching the big game or your kid's game, tackling work, or working out, no matter the occasion, they have you covered. You can find Athletic in-store, online, and at bars around the country. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get 15% off of your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON, locked on, at checkout for 15% off of athleticbrewing.com. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all time. We're now transitioning into our big picture takeaways here on Monday. A little bit of a condensed football conversation, as we do have to talk a little bit of basketball with our season opener this evening as well. But Kenton, your big picture takeaways from this great win against Miami on Saturday night. What do you have for us?
This team hasn't given up on the season is the first big takeaway, because I know a lot of people outside the locker room gave up on the season after the Duke game. This team clearly hasn't. All of this team's goals, for the most part, are still in front of this team. Very seriously. Every single goal is still right there. And I'm not going to talk about expressly like, oh, they get to the ACC. Listen, all this team's goals are right there. Having one of the best seasons in school history is right there. It literally is right there within the grasp. So, that's another positive thing there. And my last big takeaway is the future is now in Raleigh. The future is now. We're seeing all of these guys who have a lot of time left making big plays. We talked about Cisse defensively, because you look at the defense, you think, man, the cupboards might be bare next year, with Aiden White most likely going to the NFL, with Peyton Wilson running out of eligibility. Van might go to the NFL, not sure, but it makes sense. And you see young guys stepping up. You see guys who, Jalen Scott getting better and better and showing off and doing his thing. Obviously on offense, a true sophomore quarterback that we are going to at least have for one more year, potentially two. You've got a running back room where Kendrick Raphael stepped up big time. You've got multiple young guys just coming through, showing up for this offense. And so you love what you see out of these offensive young guys as well. The future is now, but there's also great stuff to look forward to ahead.
A couple of my takeaways here. I'll start here with Robert and I. He's been cooking. He has been cooking. And I think some people are sort of confusing some of these drives stalling out for completely pinning that on Robert and I. The play that looked super funky, where you had 6 guys lined up out left, and then you snap it, and you have Casey with a bit of an inside shuffle, and he finds a hole, breaks it off for 40 yards down the middle of the field. That is Robert and I. That is the creativity that we're talking about. And we mentioned this Saturday night, Jordan Poole, a former linebacker, catching a screen pass to walk into the end zone. That's Robert and I. Yeah. He has done a lot more than folks probably want to give him credit for. And so continuing to find ways to get the ball down the field, in addition to continually finding creative ways to get the ball into Casey's hands. Coming into this game, I had a little bit of a worry that Miami was going to make such an effort to take Casey out of this game that it would pose a large issue for us. Still got Casey nearly 100 total yards, if I'm not mistaken. Shout out to Robert and I, still getting it done despite some issues that, again, we're just going to have to continue fighting through as this season goes on. My second takeaway here, the defense. Better and better and better and better. Yeah. Earlier this season, we talked about the Louisville game being like the crown jewel of performances for this defense this year. I think they just outdid themselves in this Miami game. Actually, I know they just outdid themselves in this Miami game. And for all intents and purposes, Miami came into Raleigh looking pretty solid, minus a knee situation against Georgia Tech here a couple weeks ago. They had beaten Clemson. They had beaten some other teams by a considerable amount of points, and they're feeling good about themselves down in Miami. I don't think that's the case anymore, considering they did a whole lot of nothing in Raleigh on Saturday night, and they have a couple tough games upcoming for them now. But this defense put on one hell of a performance on Saturday night, and it's hard to be surprised because you know what they're capable of. But at some points, I was like, I can't even believe the level at which they're playing right now. You mentioned Jalen Scott, better and better and better every single week. Red Hibbler was a monster in this game. Davin Van was a monster in this game. Of course, we all know about Peyton Wilson. We could do an entire show on Peyton Wilson. I believe he crossed over 100 tackles on the season, and he's still got 3 games left. That's absurd.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unbelievable effort. The interceptions that we reined in, the corners, safeties, secondary, excellent job in this game. You had to make Tyler Van Dyke beat you. He didn't beat you. Outstanding job from this defense. And my last takeaway here, it kind of mirrors yours, Kenton. You see that this team, something happened after that Duke game going into that bye week. Something happened, and the belief is there. And I talked about this a couple weeks ago. Momentum is one hell of a drug. They have found a way to create momentum here again. I mentioned how important it was to find a way to get this second win off of that Clemson win. You beat Miami. Now, who knows what could happen with these last 3 games? You now have to roll into Winston-Salem. We have a lot to talk about with that one coming up this week. You have Virginia Tech on the road. That will be interesting. I think Virginia Tech is playing much better than maybe we have expected them to this year.
But Virginia Tech is coming off of an absolute waxing from Louisville.
Yeah.
I mean, Louisville whooped the wheels off of him, and you know that the read option of Drones and Tootin was hitting. It was effective against Florida State. It was effective against almost every team that they played up until Louisville. All of a sudden, it got real dicey. So, you know, there's 3 games left, and of those 3 games, I don't see one where it's like there's not a world where we win it. But I also don't see a single game in there where we say there's not a world where we lose it. You know what I mean? Like, Grace and I were the first to tell you, and we're still going to sit right here on this position. Every game's winnable. Every game's losable.
Yeah, this momentum built after beating Miami here, you've got to keep stoking the fire. You've got to come into practice this week and go out to Winston-Salem on Saturday like you lost that game. You have to convince yourself that that game was not played to anywhere near the best of our ability. You've got to go into Winston-Salem pissed off for more. You've got to want more because this team has more still on the table. And if they want it, they can go get it.
I got a scary feeling that one of these next 3 games is going to be the offense's best game of the year. I got a scary feeling.
Listen, we've said that. They have not been anywhere near a ceiling yet this year. If they find it in one of these next 3 games, we could look dangerous.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're going to close out this Monday episode with a bit of a preview for the men's basketball season opener coming up on Monday night after a quick word from our sponsor. Our second sponsor of the day is LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have the best access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. Then use simple tools like screening questions to make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you would like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Last few minutes for you on this Monday. Of course, NC State basketball fans, Merry Christmas. College basketball season is here on Monday. NC State has their home opener tonight, 7 p.m. against the Citadel. We're going to talk a little bit about what to expect. Talk a little bit about the takeaways from the exhibition game last week. Citadel comes into Raleigh Monday night. Pretty low expectations based on everything I've read up on them from last year. The Citadel had a 10-22 record last year, so of course they struggled mightily. They have a lot of roster turnover. They also have a lot of roster turnover, just like we do. I believe they have 2 main additions out of the transfer portal. One of them is from Vanderbilt. The other is from Presbyterian. The rest, I believe they have 6 freshmen or 7 freshmen, if I'm not mistaken, to add into their 6 or 7 sophomores. So the only 2 guys that have real experience they picked up from the transfer portal, and the rest of their team is extremely young. So what does this mean for tonight? NC State needs to dominate this game from opening tip to the last buzzer. Point blank, period. And no, I'm not one that is harping much on the exhibition score. I know a lot of people were up in arms about that last week. I don't read so much into that. I think I read more into what the score was at halftime. We were up 20 at halftime. That is where it should be. And these exhibition games are more for tinkering around the lineup, throwing out sets, seeing what works. And so some of the turnovers, yes, I do have a problem with the turnovers. Some of the defense, yes, I do have a problem with some of the defense. But that game, it doesn't count. It's an exhibition that they're used for tinkering around and finding what works for you. Tonight, this is where the takeaways are for real. We're playing for keeps now from here on out. And so, something I've seen a little bit across Twitter in regards to the lineups that we want to see from NC State. The best one I've seen, I want to see DJ Burns, Mo Diarra, Casey Morsell, DJ Horn, and Jaden Taylor. Coincidentally, those are the 5 players that had double digits in points in the exhibition. I think that's your starting 5 in my personal opinion. Yeah,
pretty much you ate that no notes, man. No notes. I agree with everything you said there. I couldn't really back you up, or I couldn't really say anything different. Obviously, we hope that MJ Rice just keeps getting in basketball shape, doing things to get ready. So I don't expect to see him in this game. But the players who are going to be there, you're absolutely right. That's the starting 5 I want to see. And also, I want to see this team create chaos. I want to see this team you're playing against a very young team. So there is no better platform for you to get off creating chaos, causing turnovers, all that good stuff. Now's the time to do it.
Cleaning up turnovers, it is imperative from here on out. And, the cohesive defense that maybe you didn't see in the exhibition, I do expect to see it against the Citadel. This team is still going to be finding chemistry in ways that they haven't really experienced yet. They get to play other teams. At the moment, they're only used to playing themselves. And so we're playing for keeps now. This is for real. You don't have as much time to gel, but it's at the same time, it's still a work in progress. And so finding those sets will be imperative. Finding your main distributor, I still do think that will end up being Michael O'Connell. He had a lot of turnovers in the exhibition, but finding your main ball distributor, that will be imperative. Finding your horses that you'll be able to lean on throughout the season. I think I just named probably the most likely starting 5. We'll see how it goes. NC State needs to dominate on Monday night, and I certainly expect them to. That'll do it for us here on Monday. As always, thank you all so much for tuning into our live stream on Saturday night. Had a big number of viewers there. Appreciate all the likes, all the comments, all the new subscribers we have. If this is your first time seeing us, welcome to the show. We're happy to be here. Coming up tomorrow, of course, on Tuesday, we have a whole lot of something, whole lot of nothing. We're going to have Kenton's Locked On Look of the Week from the Miami game and probably a solid review of what we saw in the Citadel game this evening. We will see you all on Tuesday. As always, be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. We'll get to all of those comments. Until tomorrow, go Pack.
Go Pack.